Okay, so I'm doing something different today. I've been thinking a while about how to develop a podcast. And I'm not going to say this is necessarily a podcast, but I'm going to do this podcast style. Because there's been a lot going on in technology over the past week or so. I was going to do this video yesterday and talk about things that happened last week that I thought were interesting, that might interest some of you. But it was Google I/O. So I had to wait because I needed to process everything that came out of that, which I'm not going to talk about in this video. It's too much. I don't want this to be an hour-long ramble. I'm going to try to keep it reasonably concise, but if you've seen any of my videos, you know sometimes I'm not reasonably concise. I'll do my best. So the things that I noticed last week that kind of caught my attention, and if you've watched my channel and seen any of my videos, you know I'm into audio, I'm into gadgets, I'm into tablets and phones and stuff. And there were things that happened last week in pretty much all of those areas that kind of sort of interested me. Now, this probably won't be apparent from looking at videos on my channel, but I am kind of a Sony fan. I'm using a Sony camera to film this. When I first started my channel, I started off with a Sony Xperia phone, the adorable Mark V, or the Xperia 5 Mark V. Tiny little phone, decent cameras. One of the things that makes it unique is the headphone jack and the very easy to use SD card thing that you can pull out with your fingernail. This was a great phone for me because it functioned as my primary phone, and it could also be my primary camera. I could stick an SD card slot in it. I could plug microphones into the headphone jack. I have Sony accessories. I have in this handmade case. By the way, I crochet. If you wonder why I so often wear hats, I make these. I made this hat, the hats that you see me wear. I make this stuff. I have a crochet channel. I'll put links in the description. I'm adding stuff to my Etsy store all the time. So if you're interested in handmade crocheted items, especially Tunisian crochet, hey, hit up my Etsy store. But this part of the Sony, I'm sure it has a name. I want to call it, like, maybe it was the creator kit or something like that that was designed for the Xperia phones. It fits onto a little, I don't have it in front of me, but it fits onto a holder so that if you have your phone camera facing down or facing away from you, so if you have the camera screen facing away from you, you can, or facing, I should say facing away from you so you can't see it, you could stick this in the holder that would attach, and you'd have a screen on the back. And then you could use the main camera and you could see the screen, and you didn't have to worry about not being able to see the front. I used this a few times, but not very often. But this thing is great. It has USB ports for the power and for you to plug into your phone, so you can still charge while you're using this. And this has a 3.5 millimeter jack on it as well. So just super helpful. It's got the thread, so you can attach that how you want. I have the Sony Grip, which this is a Bluetooth controller. You can zoom in or change modes with this thing. It can be a tripod. Super handy. This kit was not cheap, but when you have, one device that's your phone and your camera and you really want it to work, then, I went all in. So I have that kit. So you would think that last week's announcement of the Xperia 1 Mark 7 Yeah, we're up to 7, would interest me, and it did. I watched the unveiling. I watched a few reviews because let me tell you right now, let me just spoil the whole thing for you. I will not be buying it. I just told you I have an Xperia 5 Mark 5, which was the last Sony 5, actually the last, those two, the Xperia 1 Mark 5 and the Xperia 5 Mark 5, and maybe the 10 were the last ones introduced in the United States or available in the United States. Like you didn't have to like fuss with out of country retailers. You could just buy it from the Sony store or from Amazon, which is how I bought mine. They didn't make the 6 available last year, which was fine because I didn't buy the 1. I bought the 5 instead of the 1 when I bought my 5 because the 1s were always really, really expensive. And yes, they had better cameras than the 5, and yes, they had bigger screens, bigger phones. But the basic premise was the same, right? You get a good camera, you get the SD card slot, and you get the headphone jack. And for me at that time, with the Sony being my primary phone, it was my digital audio player with the headphone jack. I could plug in wired headphones. I could use it as my camera with my accessories. It was great. So I didn't invest in the 1 then. I didn't invest in the 1 last year. And I'm not going to be investing in the 1 this year, even though it comes in purple. And I love purple. It's my favorite color. But from looking at reviews and some quick comparisons of people who've had them in their hands for the past few weeks, it doesn't sound compelling enough to justify its $1,700 price. Now, again, if you're the kind of person I was, 2 to 3 years ago, looking for a phone that could be your everything, could be your camera, and you could use it like a camera and plug in microphones and plug in headphones and have your Sony accessories and just kind of go and be whoever you want to be in technology with your phone, camera, digital auto player thingy, then maybe. But I think the world, unfortunately, has moved on or is moving on, right? People don't get wired up, pun not really intended, about not having the headphone jack anymore. People don't get as angry as I think they should be because you've got these cameras that can record in 4K and 8K, but yet you don't get a storage slot. So you're plugging in a dongle, you're plugging in, SSDs to try to record to. I think that's silly, but that's where we are in the world. So sadly, unless, like I said, you're that person who really wants the all-in-one device, the slim camera, phone, digital auto player, everything device, and you're willing to give up, a little bit of ease of use because Sony is really intended for people who know what they're doing, and their auto settings I don't think are as robust. That's not the best word, but that's the word that I've got in my head for people who just want to push buttons and take pictures and keep moving on, right? I think Sony is really best for people who want to tinker and fiddle around with settings and ISO and exposure and white balance and blah, 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 which is not me. It's never been me. Maybe it'll be me someday when I figure out what I'm doing, but it's not me today. And I don't think it's most people. So as sad as it is, as much as I love Sony, I have an old Sony digital audio player. I have my phone. I have my accessories, but I'm not going to be buying the 1. And since I just talked about Sony digital audio players, I do have a Sony digital audio player. It's so old it runs Android 8, but it was that was like the best you could do at the time in terms of Android and digital audio players when I bought that thing 4 or 5 years ago. But Android 8, I mean, you don't really want to put that on the internet at this point, so I don't turn that thing on. At least I haven't turned it on in more than a year. But you would think since I am this Sony chick, I would have a pair of Sony headphones somewhere in my kind of extensive collection of audio gear. I do not. I do not have a single pair of Sony earbuds, wired or wireless, headphones, wired or wireless, which when I bought my digital audio player, I thought, I should buy the Sony headphones. But I couldn't justify it because I'm not really a person who's super into noise canceling. I believe noise canceling is great for certain scenarios that I rarely find myself in. For people who travel, especially on planes, or if you ride the bus or the train, the subway to work every day. I believe ANC headphones are probably lifesavers in those situations because you put headphones on and hopefully people just leave you alone, right? And you want them to work well. And the Sonys, for a few years now, have been up there in the top 3 for noise canceling headphones, right there with Bose. The Quiet Comfort Ultras, I think, are the latest. And according to what Sony said, review my notes, it said that as of March 1st, 2025, they had the best noise canceling, which, okay, sure.
Introducing Sony's latest flagship, the WH-1000XM6 wireless noise-canceling headphones. The 1000X series has set the standard for exceptional sound quality and noise-canceling performance since 2016. Now, we present our latest masterpiece, the WH-1000XM6 wireless noise-canceling headphones.
So even if they are better than the Bose, it really comes down to what do you like in your sound profile, because the sound profile for Sony and Bose are very different, right? Bose is less bassy, a little bit more trebly, so if you like your sound sparkly. I'm a person who generally prefers warmer sounds. I want my mids to be very present. If you've listened to any of my audio reviews, you know this about me. I need my bass, but I don't want it to overpower my mids. And the treble needs to be there, but I don't want the treble to like sear my ears. The Sonys appear to have better balanced sound than last generation, the Mark V. They have better resolution in the mids, so if you're into vocals, if you're into instruments, then you should get a little bit better sound in the mids, and the bass doesn't blend in and bump into the mids as much as it did before. And the noise canceling, like I said, is supposedly better. Some of the hardware standouts, I guess, are that it folds again. The Mark V's didn't fold, but the 4s did. And I think they made that change because there was a lot of concerns with the 4 breaking. At that point where it bends, there were people who were having problems with it breaking, and they just stopped doing it for the Mark V because I guess they couldn't figure out how to fix it. But they've fixed it now, maybe? I don't know. For $400, I hope they fixed it. They've always been expensive, and noise canceling headphones don't usually sound as good as non-noise canceling headphones. Like these that I'm wearing, these are the Drop Pandas from a few years ago. These were intended to be wireless Bluetooth. They never canceled noise. They weren't noise canceling, but they're planar magnetic drivers in them. So they have really good resolution and really good clarity and fairly good balance. They're intended for people who wanted wireless on the go, but were audio snobs. So you see, I'm using them with a wire because the wireless functionality stopped working within the first year. I want to say within the first 6 months. And I think they recognize they have problems and they try to issue firmware updates, and the firmware updates didn't help. They've never worked wirelessly, but they still work, thank God, via wire, because when you pay that much money for headphones, you don't want them to be digital bricks. So I've always preferred headphones with better sound versus better noise canceling, so I don't own a pair of Sonys. I do have some other noise canceling headphones that cost a lot less than $400. I have the original Bowers & Wilkins PX, like I bought, 5 or 6 years ago, that I did pay $400 for because I thought that I wanted noise canceling, and then I realized, no, I really actually do just want them to sound good. And those headphones were always a disappointment to me, and I have a couple of pair of one-ear noise canceling headphones because when you're a woman and you have a woman-sized head, most headphones don't fit you right. These are too big for me, but the hat helps a little bit, but most headphones are too big, and I find myself, always wanting to push them up because they slide down. Even with the adjustability, you have it all the way, and it's still like down here. Annoying. So I find on-ear fit better, even though they're not as comfortable. On-ear will never be as comfortable as over-the-ear, right? But I have the Marshall Mid-ANCs, and actually those are the ones that I would travel with if I wanted semi-full-size headphones, even though those are old. They feel reasonably good. They sound pretty good, and they cancel enough noise to make me happy. I'd either travel with those or I'd travel with like some of my Bluetooth audio. Like I love these Technics, the AZ80s. For their noise canceling, I might travel with those because they connect to 3 devices. Again, if you've seen any of my audio reviews, I'm just rehashing stuff. So those are the Sonys. Yeah, I won't be buying them. So yeah, what can I say about that, right? The other thing that came out last week was, and when I do my thoughts on Google I/O, I'll probably touch on this a little bit again. But the other thing that really happened last week was the Android show.
We call it Material 3 Expressive. It's coming to Android, Wear, and all of your favorite Google apps on these devices later this year. It's a UI tailored for you.
Google released a little video talking about some of the features of Android 16. I don't have a Pixel phone. I haven't had a Pixel phone since the 3A, which I still have somewhere in my house. It hasn't been powered on in years because it's not getting updates anymore. But I have the Pixel tablet, and I bought the Pixel tablet specifically so I could have something Pixel in my collection so that when Android version updates go out, I could at least see what they look like on a tablet, because a lot of the stuff crosses over. When that show came out, I didn't have a beta that reflected, the new Material 3 Expressive colorful changes. This morning, just today, as I'm recording this, I did get an update for the Pixel tablet that I do think makes it look a little bit more expressive. So I'm here in my the pull down notifications, and you can see I deliberately changed my colors. I went to purple. I told you purple was my favorite color. Did I tell you that when I was talking about the Sony? The Xperia one comes in purple, by the way. Most exciting thing to me. So purple, not the most exciting. That sounds terrible, but one of the most exciting. So I've got purple here as my color option. Purple and lavender. I'm less excited about lavender, but the purple makes up for it. So I've got that here, and you can see that everything is a little bit more bubbly than it was before. Now, this is one of the things that they've been talking about, is that they added more colorful flair with Material 3 Expressive. Oops, it's meant to be more, I'm trying to adjust my light because it just went out. It's trying to be more colorful and more exciting and more organic, I think is probably the word they would use. I think it's a terrible word, but that's probably a word that they would use. So I've got my changes here, you can see, with what's available. And they do look bigger. Supposedly you can resize them. Here we go. Can I resize them? Yes, they can be resized. So you can see you can resize them now. So that's pretty cool, theoretically. You can make changes here. Everything is a little bit more colorful, even in the settings. You've got, more colorful buttons and bobs and bibs and babs going on here. So that's cool. But if I don't sound excited, it looks good. I'm sure it will continue to improve and look better as time goes on. But the reason why I'm not as excited yet is because when I first loaded Android 16 onto my tablet, I made sure I set up all of my developer options so that I could have the pseudo desktop mode available to me. You gotta scroll through all of this stuff. It's in here somewhere. Did I scroll past it? Window management. Yeah, so all these window management features, resizable, enable non-resizable, multi-window enable. I have all this. You can see I have it all activated. But for some reason, when I open an app, it used to have a little line here at the top that would let you tap on it or pull on it, and you could drag stuff down. You can't do that anymore. Now it just opens the shade. And if I come up here, it just puts everything into, task management mode. Now, you can manipulate this. I could hear people in the background screaming, but JP, you can actually, yes. You can come in here and you can do some stuff, right? You can do split screen. You can change aspect ratio, screenshot. I actually love this drop down. I went and pulled out my S9, my Samsung Galaxy Tab S9 to see if it has this. And I just never noticed it before. No, this is actually something that's either unique to Pixel or it's unique to Android 16. I love this list. I think this is fantastic. But if I click on Freeform, it brings up a window. Okay, great. And I can move it around. Okay, great, fine. But if I want to make it bigger, I can't make it bigger. I finally figured out after fiddling with this for a while that if I bring out my pen, because the Pixel tablet works with USI pens, I can then resize it. I just have to wait for this little arrow to show up, and I can drag on it maybe to make it bigger, and I can move it around that way too. And that's fine, but you see I still don't have the little menu thingy up here. And what's annoying about this is not really desktop mode, because now if I want to open another app, it just opens another app. It doesn't. So annoying. So if I come back here and I say I want this to be freeform, now it's freeform. And if I go back and bring up, it's back to full. What is this? Why is it doing this? Am I missing something? If I'm missing something, somebody tell me, because I have not figured out how to get two freeform windows, to be clear, because I know you can do split screen. I don't want split screen. I want the ability to bring up another window and then overlap it on top of that one, like desktop mode. And I have not figured out how to do this, and it's so irritating to me, because I actually used the Pixel tablet in desktop mode more often than not. I would have, a couple of browser windows open or some other app, and I can't do that anymore. And it's just, I hope it comes back. I assume it will come back, because I know Google is working on desktop mode, and that's one of the things that I think they have been announcing this week in the various I/O sessions. So I do expect that this will be better, or if I just haven't figured out what I'm doing yet, that I'll see something somewhere and I'll be like, oh, I just need to click that and it'll be fine. So we'll see. But I think from a visual perspective, obviously I'm not seeing a lot of visual change here yet. The widgets are colorful, but they were colorful before. The font is different. I know some people say it's more playful or even childish. I heard someone, I think it was Damian Wild from Android. Is he from Android Authority? 9 to 5 Google? I'm terrible. I should know this. 9 to 5, right? I think he's 9 to 5. He said it reminded him of Comic Sans. I don't think it's that bad. That doesn't look that bad. Comic Sans is terrible. This does not look that bad. Does it look like it did before? No, but I guarantee you that there are plenty of people in the world who will not even notice the difference, because it's still a sans font, and as long as they can read it, they're happy. I do think that the battery indicator is different. I know somebody complained about not it being as readable. I think the battery indicator in One UI 7 on Samsung is a little bit better, because it's got the little extra size and the little extra thingy to the left of it, but it's fine. And this isn't final. It's going to keep changing. Even when they roll it out with the Pixel phone, with the Pixel 10, it'll probably even change after that, because Google's probably going to keep reworking this. And in terms of desktop mode, I do have confidence that it will get better because I've seen screenshots and people demoing improvements. So I'm going to keep playing around with it and we'll see what happens. But that's what happened last week in tech that I thought was interesting. What do you think? Are you excited about the Sony Xperia 1? Are you excited about this new Sony ANC headphones? Are you going to be picking them up? Are you excited about the changes to Android 16? Let me know what you think. And we'll keep plugging away at tech. Thanks for watching.